Hey guys, it's Chris Peak in Greencastle, Indiana. That's right, we're not in Indianapolis, Indiana. We are out in Greencastle, and we are here because we are sitting with Veronica Pejril, who is now Greencastle's third ward counselor. And she's joined today by a few of the community members. We actually have someone who owns a little craft store. Is that correct?
Or it's a handmade boutique, yeah.
Okay, a handmade boutique. And then we also have the owners of the bar that was gracious enough to actually allow us to do this interview inside their establishment. And we'll talk a little bit more about their beer in a little later. Veronica, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Talk to us about what Tuesday night felt like as the election results were rolling in. You probably started off really nervous, and then throughout that night, I can only imagine.
If the worst part actually was the afternoon of election day, because I kept thinking, well, I could have done this, I could have done that, I could have messaged those people, I could have knocked on 10 more doors. Folks around our community know that we were knocking on a lot of doors. In fact, JD to my right here was my canvassing manager and helped me get a bunch of people organized in our communities to spread our positive message of unity and being good neighbors. But I gotta tell you, that day was just crazy time for me. I was very, very, very nervous going in. People kept telling me, "Oh, everything will be fine. It'll all work out in the end." I did not expect the community to respond quite as hugely, if I can use that particular adjective, because it wound up that we got 67% of the vote, which is more than 2-1. So it was definitely a convincing victory for unity in our community. So we're thrilled for that. That the icing on the cake, I suppose, is I'm thrilled and humbled to be Indiana's first transgender elected official, and I'm ready for that. I think our community is ready for that too. So I'm thrilled to move going forward and represent our area of Greencastle on our city council starting next year when I get sworn in.
JD, talk to us a little bit about why you got involved in Veronica's campaign.
Well, Bruce and I have known Veronica for several years, and she is a really organized and super smart, community-involved person. But honestly, her opponent was pretty negative, Islamophobic, transphobic, and I knew it was really important to not have that on our city council, and I knew how effective Veronica would be. I don't usually get involved in our local partisan politics with my shop, but this was a really important race. To me, we have a transgender child in the schools here. It's really important to me not to have homophobic people on our city council. That will affect our lives and our kids' lives in the future. So we now have, a transgender person and the first openly gay Republican on our little tiny city council. And that shifts everything in a really positive direction, in my view. So I'm thrilled. Things went really well. And I'm relieved because it can go the other direction really easily if we just are complacent about how these things work out.
And for you guys, talk to us about what it means to have a business that has the space and the ability to actually help uplift politicians who are running, but also, make sure that that your bar is a safe place to be at and it's a community-based bar.
All right. I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to work in the educational domain, but as well with musicians, and being able to build community events that nurture and harbor the ability for free expression is very important to both of us, and being able to have that branch out into our bigger community, I think is the big, the best message that we can do as a facility. We work very hard to make sure that everyone is working together, and we just are establishing that that magical moment that you just feel that you're a part of something. And so that branches, of course, into your corporate sector, just being able to have a home in the community.
But it's very important to us to live in a community where people are judged by the content of their character. Like, this is an American established ethic that people are judged based on who they are. And it was very relieving for Veronica to win because she was the better candidate. And we hope that in the future 2 years, people are continued to judge based on the content of their character. And I think our nation would be far better off if we all tried to meet that ideal.
And Veronica, it is Transgender Awareness Week with Transgender Day of Remembrance coming up here on the 20th. Talk to us a little bit more about why it's so important for representation to happen within all parts of the community, but specifically the trans community.
Well, I've got stories to share, and some of them are probably a little bit too long for our piece, but one of my best friends who happened to be trans, I helped her find work here in Greencastle a little more than 10 years ago. She's since passed on, and her memory is something that I still hold on to. I think that people, regardless of how they worship or who they love or what they look like, should feel or should be allowed to work and make a living for themselves in a community like Greencastle. And so those are the kinds of ideals that I plan to uplift. And part of that too is in Taylor's memory, because I remember, she found work here in town as a hairstylist, and that was something that she excelled at. And once she got outed in, if you will, the hairstylist community around here, there was some backlash, and she wound up being blackballed, if you will, by some of the establishments. I won't name names here, but I think it's important to honor that that everybody, regardless of their presentation and their being their authentic selves, should be allowed to work where they work.
And going forward, or as we move forward, what sort of agenda or what sort of issues are you hoping to help fix or help happen in Greencastle?
Well, my number one issue is actually the housing inventory here in Greencastle, and I want to make sure that we address that matter. That is, there's not enough housing for all the people that work here in Greencastle. There are people who commute here. We would like especially to make sure that we find and craft creative ways to bring more housing to our communities without having to go down the subdivision road. And that means housing at all price points. People who are at both ends of the income scale should be able to find a place to live here, so they can be part of our community, and that, of course, uplifts the tax base as well. My second issue actually is making sure that our public officials, especially police and fire, are paid on a level that's commensurate with some of the other communities around our state that are like our town. And we're actually embarking as a city on a independent study to take a look at the salaries that our city workers are paid and compare them to the others. And we will find creative solutions. It may hurt a little bit, but we're going to make sure that folks who work for our city are paid fairly. And my third campaign platform is more of the good neighborly platform. That was the low-hanging fruit. That was the mantra, if you will, of my campaign signs that went out around town. And that's that good neighbors make great neighborhoods. Our city does a great job of fostering and promoting festivals that generally happen around our downtown courthouse square. our town actually has a pretty long and storied history of having some more neighborhood-based festivals, and that's one of the things that I would like to propose the city do some work and effort into bringing some things back out into the communities, because what that's going to do is get people away from their social media, away from their screens, and get to know their neighbors better. Because if one thing, and Bruce here, who did some canvassing for me, could probably agree with is when we went from door to door asking folks about what's important to them in their community, one of the first things we heard about was neighbors just aren't talking to one another and getting to know each other in the way that they used to, 10 or 20 years ago even. So I think that there are things we can do on the city level to help, if you will, catalyze those getting neighbors together. But in the end, it's really people need to get out of their homes and shake some hands and get to know their neighbors, and I'm all for that. And community festivals, block parties, these are things that can help us get to know one another and appreciate and celebrate our differences more.
Awesome, and we will be actually right back after these commercial breaks.
At what cost will you excuse
Here. But one thing that before this commercial break, Veronica was talking about good neighbors make good neighborhoods, and Brent was doing a lot of canvassing. Bruce was doing a lot of canvassing for Veronica. Bruce, what was it like to be out on the campaign trail, knocking on doors and listening to the community's concerns?
It was a really positive experience, and I was grateful to have the opportunity to do that sort of work again. I've lived in Greencastle just over 4 years, so it was a really positive experience to get to walk around and talk to the people who live in these neighborhoods. One thing I really want to point out is that Veronica did a wonderful job organizing her volunteers. She made it really easy to come out and do the work for her. She had her scripts and her maps made up. When we came to work for Veronica, she told us exactly what we needed to do and organized us into teams and sent us out. And I hope going forward that is kind of a model for local campaigns here in Greencastle. It was really well run, really well put together.
Thank you.
Sharing is caring. Again, good neighbors make good neighborhoods. Yeah. I really like that. JD, talk to us a little bit. So Veronica was just talking about, bringing in more festivals, community-based festivals. Talk to us a little bit about your involvement with Putnam County Pride.
Putnam Pride Initiative is in its third year now. We're just a little small town, community LGBTQ group, but we are doing a lot of good here. There's a tremendous need for this group, especially among youth, and we have a pretty thriving youth group. We've had some problems in Putnam County with transgender students coming out of the schools, and there being backlash, sometimes always from the parents, but sometimes on a larger scale than is comfortable or warranted, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. So we need the group to support young people in households that are not welcoming, and for people to know it's there. We have a little festival in the summer in the park every year. It'll be our fourth one this summer. So I hope you consider coming out and checking it out. It's about an hour's drive from Indianapolis. We had our first downtown Pride Festival in conjunction with DePauw this year. In addition, and it was super positive. Veronica's there. It was really fun. A lot of young people out dancing, a lot of hula hoops and cotton candy. And it was great, and I'm hoping that we can continue to have a couple of festivals and just increase visibility and get people talking and aware that, LGBTQ people are here, we're your neighbors, we're your students and friends, and we're not going anywhere, and we're just part
Part of the community.
Greencastle.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're part of the fabric here.
Yes.
And before we we're even going on camera, we were talking a little bit about it and the intentionality of the name chosen for the organization. Why is it so important for small towns to actually be not just small towns individually, but small towns together as a unit and as a whole community?
Well, because the little towns surrounding Greencastle, a lot of times there is a lot of poverty. There is not a ton of infrastructure. We have a little college here. We're a college town, and we have more resources than any of the surrounding towns. And so we kind of have to represent for them too. And we get a ton of, young people from Fillmore or from Bainbridge or Rochdale who really need help, and adults too. But it can be pretty lonely for people in little towns of 500 people with no resources, no other visible gay people. So, we have to kind of be that for everyone. And I think that's true of small towns around the country, We represent for the smaller guys. And Indianapolis Pride helps us. And Spencer Pride and Bloomington Pride, some of the larger pride groups help Putnam Pride get going. It's kind of a big network.
Awesome. Well, I am so excited because we, as our network, we've gone out to a lot of these small town prides. We've done a lot of different pride interviews and interviews with artists and things. So it's going to be on our agenda to definitely come up for Putnam Pride this summer. And I'm pretty sure you have a Facebook page so that all of our viewers can go. Okay, awesome. So definitely check out Putnam County's Pride on Facebook. They'll post all their stuff for their events coming up. And then Veronica, talk to us a little bit more. Is there anything that you haven't told people yet that you are just really excited about to get to work on?
Well, I'm just thrilled that the community has rallied around our positive message, and I'm thrilled to get to work for all of the people of Greencastle, and I'll emphasize the word "all" there. Whether you vote for him or her, or whether you worship in a Baptist church or whether you do Friday prayer at our Spiritual Life Center here in the 3rd Ward, there's a place for you here in Greencastle, and I want to represent every one of you. So that's I think is the important message that I want to make sure that I'm getting out to our community at this point.
Awesome. Well, Chris Peak in Greencastle, Indiana. We're going to show you a little bit more about the brewery here as well right after this video. So stay tuned. Watch till the end. Chris Peak, LITV, out in the community.
Welcome to the Vassar Brewing Company. Welcome to the Vassar Brewing Company in Greencastle, Indiana. We're a locally owned brew pub with about 130 seats. We have live music. Frequently, Greencastle is a very strong community where we have great local musicians, and they should be heard more. And so we have two kinds of beer here. We have beer that is Belgian-based beers that are brewed true to style. So those people who are connoisseurs of the Belgian styles would be happy with our Belgian stout, our Belgian blonde. And then we have beers that are what we call artistic innovations, where it's brewed true to style. So that would involve our American IPAs that are always kind of bending the framework of what an IPA is. And then we also have a dark smoked wheat beer called saudade. It's a Portuguese word for this longing and loss. And so we made a beer based on an idea that I'm very proud of. And so, hopefully those fans of smoked dark wheat beers can show up and have a good time. It's very important to us to have a community where people are supported and judged based on the content of their character. And we're happy to have an environment that is friendly and welcoming, and most of the time people are happy here, and that's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing.